Joining us now, courtesy of Vivid Seats, LA Kings goaltending coach Mike Buckley. How are you doing today, Mike?
Doing great. How are you?
Good, thank you. And featuring Zach Dooley. How are you doing today, Zach?
Jesse, I am swell.
I got the name right this time.
You got my name right, yeah.
All right. Mike, you've been named the goaltending coach for Team USA for the Four Nations tournament. I think Zach and I have a lot of similar questions about the Four Nations tournament, and I'm hoping you have the answers. You may not. How much leeway does a goaltending coach really have in a short tournament like that? How much influence do you have on goaltending decisions?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's first time, so we'll see. And I think that it's more or less just there's pre-scouts that need to be done. There's the opponent's goaltenders you want to look at. I'm going to be in contact with the goalie coaches and see what they like to do to prepare for games and hopefully just learn a lot from them and from the other coaches.
The Four Nations tournament, I'm going to struggle with that name, by the way, just heads up.
Four Nations Faceoff.
Four Nations Faceoff. See, there you go. It's not officially replacing the NHL All-Star Game, but practically it is replacing the NHL All-Star Game. NHL All-Star teams have 3 goalies. This is a 7-game tournament where each team has 3 goalies.
Yeah.
Will each of the 3 goalies get a chance to play? And if so, will you make that decision? Will the head coach make that decision?
Hopefully not. Hopefully you run with 1, maybe 2 guys. And, I think there's a lot of factors that go into from now to, the drop of the puck in terms of how guys are playing, just kind of tracking their progression throughout the season. Obviously injuries, a big part. So, ideally you want one guy to get hot and stick with him.
How hard is it almost? Because you have 3 guys who are clear number 1 goalies in the NHL, but you might only have 3, at most 4 games, and every one is basically a must-win.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult. It's definitely going to bring the best out of each guy, I would say. You have 3 very high-end goaltenders, and that the competitive spirit of all 3 of these guys is going to be heightened for sure.
You mentioned first time at the international level. Like, how cool of an honor is that? And obviously, you worked with Sully before in Pittsburgh, but to be the guy for Team USA, I imagine, pretty special for you.
Oh yeah, I can't even put it in words. And just to represent country and represent our organization here, and that's awesome. Yeah.
When you have Hellebuck, Swayman, and Ottinger, how do you even decide who goes in game? Like, I mean, it's not as if there's a definitive ranking of those 3 guys, right? Like they're all incredible.
They're all really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think as a staff, we'll get together. We'll discuss it. We'll look at, like I said, how is that goalie playing going into the tournament? Factors like that. Maybe even the opponent at times, like which goalie handles the puck better in certain situations or plays different scenarios better. Sometimes it comes down to that decision, and try not to overthink it. Try to just make the best decision for the team and decide, which guy's going to give you the best chance to win on an individual night.
I know that some nations have national goaltending programs. I think Finland does. I think Canada recently started looking into it. The States, we have the National Hockey League. We don't have, nobody thinks of the National Hockey League as the American Hockey League, not the American Hockey League, the AHL. I mean, like the Hockey League of the United States is populated by players from all over the world. But Liga is populated by Finnish players, and the Swedish league, which I'm blanking on the name of, is populated by Swedish players, et cetera, et cetera. So, is there an American goaltending program?
There is. I mean, you look at the National Development Program, it goes up to juniors, age 20, 21. So there is that program. They do an incredible job structuring that, and there's a goalie director, and Steve Thompson, and his job is to kind of promote goaltending throughout the country at the youth level and get people to understand how to make goalies better and not just throw them in net for your team's youth hockey practice. And that has a huge impact, and from year to year you can see the evolution of goaltending in the United States, and the guys who are representing us in the Four Nations definitely are a result of that.
One thing you said earlier was interesting to me, that it's not just about managing your goalies, but also part of your job is scouting like opposition goalies. Like, I feel like we don't usually think about that as like being something that you do, but how, like, what's the split? Like, how much time do you guys put into, like, well, we're playing a goalie too, and you have some expertise there?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'd say, honestly, it's my favorite thing to do, because when I show something to a player and then they score, I feel like I'm involved more. You know,
That's an assist.
Yeah, I got an assist, and so yeah, for me, that's the fun part of the job. It takes a little bit of the stress away. But it is, I don't know, 80-20 probably, if it was to split it. It's been a good amount of time looking at not only what their goalie is doing, but what their team is doing in general to try and score on our goalie.
A few years ago, I was at a preseason game in the Honda Center. I think it was a rain game. And Matt Villalta was in the press box next to me, and I noticed that he was taking notes the whole game. And I looked over at it, and he was writing down the names of the players on the Gulls, which handed they were, where they like to shoot from. He was just getting familiar. How helpful is it to have a goalie who takes that scouting on themselves to help with whatever scouting you'd like to do?
Yeah, that's interesting. It's really independent on the goalie. There are some goalies who they just want to go and play, not think, and just react to what's happening. And there's other guys that prefer to have a baseline on what a player might do. You know, the problem there is they might not do it. So there's some guessing involved, and a lot of guys would just want to take that out of it and use their instincts and play the game. But if a goalie prefers to have a better understanding as where a guy may shoot, or if he's a shooter or a passer, or where he likes to shoot from, or where he likes to shoot on the net, then yeah, I would always provide that information to the goalie, and I think it's great for a goalie to take that into their own hands and learn the game as best they can.
Goalies are voodoo. Like, that's the phrase. Everybody knows it. It's, we've heard Glenn Murray say, if they stop the puck, it's good. If they don't, it's bad. The Kings, we talked about national programs, but the Kings have changed their approach to goaltending. Bill Ranford was the goaltender coach. He's been promoted into an oversight position. We have a whole department now. How much of that department, the direction of that department, is determined within the department, and how much of it is determined outside of the department? How much influence does Rob Blake and the front office staff have over the goaltending department, and how much of it is them hands off, just saying, like, you're the voodoo guys, so go do that voodoo that you do?
Yeah, I think goaltending in general, it's pretty hands off. You just kind of allow people who are experts in that position, handle it. And obviously with the scouting staff, there's a lot of discussions, and there's they come to us and they'll see a goalie and say, hey, let's check this guy out, and we do. So there is, obviously it's a group effort, but when it comes down to, all right, how are we going to do it, I think we look at it from inside the goalie group.
Guys we have right now, Darcy Kemper, David Riddick, personality-wise, they seem to be very different, people to work with.
Oh, yeah.
By your nod, I think you'd agree.
In a good way.
In a good way. Do they work the same way? We talk about, is it guys who want nothing, they want all? Are they the same kind of guy in that regard, or do their personalities kind of match their styles? Pretty
similar. I would say David, looks for a little bit more information, whereas Darcy likes to play off instinct. They're both veteran guys, so there's that. Like, they have a calmness about their game. They know what they need to do, and as a coach, I need to, recognize that and can't get too far ahead of myself as a coach when you have an older guy who's a veteran, and you got to kind of let them do their thing.
So you had the two vets, obviously with Darcy out, you get a guy who's not a vet at all, Eric Portillo. How does your approach maybe change when you have this young guy? He's never played in the league before. Are you trying to mold him in a certain way, or are you just trying to learn about maybe like what makes him tick?
Yeah, just build off his strengths and improve his weaknesses, really. I think at his age, it's about adjusting to the speed of the game and learning how to read the game at this level. And a lot of that is just trusting your defense and trusting what's in front of you. And usually at the NHL level, it's for lack of better terms, it's more scripted. What you think is going to happen usually happens because your hockey sense kicks in and their hockey sense kicks in. At lower levels, it's a little bit more, scrappy. And what you think might happen sometimes doesn't happen. So in a sense, it's a little bit easier to play at the NHL level. aside from how well guys execute and speed.
Recently read Ken Dryden's autobiography, and he talks about being in the game and being able to feel his body pull. He says he feels his arm being pulled into this position it needs to be in to stop the puck without him even thinking about it. How much evolution has there been in goaltending practice procedure to get goalies now to the point, there are players who are shooting, they're hiding their release point. The slap shot has gone away. There's power plays. There's all sorts of rule changes. Like, it's an ongoing arms race, I'm assuming. Oh, yeah. Are the goalies ahead or behind at the moment?
Right now, we're behind. Players have the average save percentage has gone down every year the last, I think, 7 years, and a lot of that is because players, the skill level is amazing, but also part of it is that goalies have been overcoached. It's too much going on, and you look at it in terms of golf. There's a book called The Inner Game of Golf, and the author writes about how the average USGA handicap is actually stalled despite all the use of video analysis, private coaching, all the different toys that people use to improve their golf game. Same thing's happening in goaltending. You have all these different there's video software, there's tons of stuff on Instagram, and a lot of it doesn't apply to an individual goalie. So there's too much thinking going on, and like you read in the book, The Game, I imagine, that's what Ken Dryden's saying, is that you have to trust your feel, you have to be able to feel the game, be an athlete, and when technique and overthinking get in the way of that, that's going to slow you down as a goalie.
It's kind of funny, too, because I feel like the common narrative is the other way. It's like we have to increase scoring, but scoring is kind of being increased anyway. If
naturally,
that's true, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And goalies will catch up. It's always been like that.
A couple of years ago, I was talking to a skills coach, and we were talking about the height of goaltenders. Mm-hmm. And it was his opinion, I don't know if it's correct or not, but he thought that goalies were going to have to start getting shorter in order to get a better view of where pucks were coming off of sticks, because stick technology was allowing players to pull and drag shots in closer to their body. Any thoughts on whether or not goalies need to get taller or shorter, or was that just that conversation?
That's an interesting take. I haven't really thought about that. I think that for me, if you can stop a puck, it doesn't matter how your size. You might have to make adjustments to your depth, depending on your size, and play certain situations in different ways for sure. But if you can stop a puck and you can play at this level, then I don't care if you're 6'5" or 5'11". I mean, there's pros and cons to both,
I have recently become aware of the phrases RVH and VH. Can you explain to me, as you would a small child, what those are, how commonly they show up, and do I need to even bother learning what they are?
Not unless you're going to play goalie.
All right, I'm not.
Yeah.
All right.
So
I was thinking about a career change. So explain it to me, yeah.
Again, it's another way, like goaltending can sometimes get overcomplicated. RVH stands for reverse vertical horizontal, which is what your pads are doing. One is vertical and one is horizontal. So basically the RVH is the evolution of the VH, which was your post knee would be up, and your opposite leg, your far knee, would be down, and that would allow you to sail the short side and still push off that post and be able to get to lateral plays. Problem with that is you'd leave too early, open up the short side, and it really exposed 5-hole a lot too, and it was tough to see pucks at your feet. So goalies change or kind of evolved. I say, Tuukka Rask, Jonathan Quick, these are guys that really utilize the RVH very naturally in their game, and then it kind of sprouted from there. RVH is the reverse of that. So your post knee is now down and your other knee is up. And that allows you to still be able to push off that post, seal the short side, and you have way better 5-hole coverage and better vision on the puck. The problem there is if it's used in the wrong circumstances, in the wrong place, you're exposed up top. And you see goals like that. You see these RVH fails. And then you have, you have times where you just don't seal it enough, or you're not as flexible as other guys, and things are going to open up. So, again, like anything else, there's pros and cons to it.
I feel like we're goalie guys now.
Well, I mean, that's the goal for me today.
That was
We can go on the ice right now. I think it's open.
Yeah.
I don't want to give away state secrets, so I won't say what happened during the drill, but I think it was last year during rookie camp or training camp, I saw a drill going on with the goalies that I'd never seen before. I asked someone to explain it. I think it was Adam Brown explained it to me. And I just thought it was brilliant. It was utterly simple, uncomplicated, didn't require any sort of like extra equipment or anything. It was just a totally different way of looking at it. And I thought it's annoyingly brilliant how simple it is. Is that something that the goaltending department of the LA Kings encourage? Is that kind of like cutting it? I don't know if it's cutting edge or not, but it felt that way to me. That sort of just a new way to look at the position.
Yeah, I think so. We're always trying to get better, and I think as a department, we all bring different expertise. Billy played in the league for a long time, won cups as a player. I've won cups as a coach and been coaching pretty much my whole life. And Brownie's a younger guy who's working his way up, and so he's experienced, different techniques. So we've all from different eras, so to speak, and putting it all together, and it's awesome. Like it's a huge competitive advantage for an organization to have a group like this. It's awesome.
Brodeur, Waugh, or Hasek?
I gotta go with Brodeur.
Never beat the Kings, so I'm fine with that.
There you go. He didn't beat the Kings because of Jonathan Quick.
That's right.
Who I know that you worked with, at a young age. Like, how early did you know right away, like, that he was going to be Jonathan Quick?
Well, I saw him play at a young age, and when he was in high school at Avon, and yeah, you could see that he just had a special, just very instinctive, very athletic, had his own way of playing, and that's really where the direction we want to go with our goalies is we want our guys to form their own game. You see a lot of goalies now, it's just a cookie cutter approach. If you take a silhouette of Dominic Hasek, Marty Brodeur, Patrick Waugh, and you don't know who it is, you just see the silhouette playing, if you know goalies, you're going to say, oh, that's Brodeur, that's Hasek, that's Jonathan Quick. A lot of goalies say they look identical in the way they play situations, the way their stance, and for us, we want our guys to be individuals, much like Jonathan Quick was.
I took a golf lesson one time, and the guy said there is room for individuality in your swing. Like, do you see comparables? You mentioned golf earlier, like between a golf swing and a goalie with that kind of thing?
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of comparables. You swing your swing. That's the saying that I really like is, same thing. You see Arnold Palmer swing, that's Arnold Palmer. You see Tiger Woods. You see these guys, they have their own individual style. And that's, to me, I think that creates a freewheeling style of play. You're not forcing a goalie, you're not handcuffing them. And I think that's a really, really important part of it, a really good direction that we need to go as a goalie department.
Over a course of a season or two, the Kings found themselves suddenly with a flush goalie prospect pipeline. You've coached at multiple levels in the development process, but now you're the coach of the goaltending coach of the National Hockey League team. Carter George was taken in the second round this past year, and the phrase that Zach and I heard repeated about him more than once that I think everybody sort of knows what it means, but not necessarily, is that he has the it factor, which, like, I generally know what that means, but I don't really know what it means in terms of goaltending. Can the it factor be amplified by coaching, or are you worried about introducing too much coaching and maybe dulling whatever the it factor is?
As a coach, you got to kind of feel it out and balance. It's a balancing act. If their goalie's getting way too wild and, playing outside, being outside the net and just getting out of control, and you dial it back with more technical detail. But if you see them getting too technical, then you start to incorporate more compete type situations and drills like that. So for me, it's just a balancing act and communication. See how the goalie feels, and you get to read from them off of that. And I think that's what that it factor is them being able to just play their game, but also come up big in big moments, and make the saves you need to. You may not always have the best statistical goalie, but you have a goalie who wins games for you, makes the saves at the right time and doesn't lose games for you, which is probably the most important.
When the organization has 3 prospects, one in the AHL, one in the NCAA, one in the OHL, how much input does the goaltending department have on those goaltenders? Portillo obviously is in the system. You can talk to him every day.
Yeah.
But George and Slukinski, it's a tougher challenge. Are you able to pass on preferences you'd have, like, oh, I'd like him to work this into his game or work that out of his game or start doing the RVH or, whatever it is?
Yes. Yeah. We are in communication with their goalie coaches at school and in junior, and we have an open line of communication with them. And we see something, we try not to get in the way too much, but if we see something we know is not going to work at this level, or we see them going in a direction that is not suitable for us, we say something. Now it's up to them whether they want to incorporate it or not, but it's usually a very good, very positive conversation that you have with their coaches.
Can you look at guys who are younger and say, like, okay, this is working for you right now, but if you keep doing this, it's not going to work when you get to the AHL or the NHL, and try to incorporate it that way?
Yeah, that does happen a lot, and vice versa. I mean, there's things that you can do at a lower level that you need to do, but then you need to gradually learn how to work out of that and play things a little bit differently at this level.
I can't remember which of the 3 goalie prospects it was that told us that he'd never had a goalie coach in his career, which didn't seem that odd to me because they were between 18 and 22 whenever we spoke to them. Mm-hmm. Would you rather have a goalie come in under your tutelage who had no instruction, or a goalie who came in and had a private coach growing up, or maybe a juniors coach or something that you just thought filled their head with bad tendencies?
I think someone that you can work with easier that's always going to make your job a lot easier. But at the end of the day, it's whoever's the better goalie, So if someone comes in and they've doing things differently, it's about working with them, and not trying to change them, trying to help them. And that's a mindset that, and as you get older as a goalie coach, you recognize that more and more. Got to get out of the way. Less is more.
Last one before we let you go. How do you feel about the trapezoid?
I'm so used to it now. I can't even remember what it was like without it, to be honest with you.
It was better.
It was better, yeah. Yeah, you know what? I think the impact on the game, I'm not sure. Like, if it's had that huge of an impact, or on the safety of the players, or, but I think at this point, we're just so used to it that we don't even think about it anymore.
Well, we appreciate you joining us today. We appreciate you watching and listening at home. Thanks very much, Mike Buckley. Thanks very much, Zach Dooley, and we'll talk to you soon.